Tonight on CBC Vancouver News.
Our summer is over. The messy middle is over. We need to prepare for what's coming up.
Getting back on track. Health officials warn it's time to re-flatten the COVID curve. Also,
but I think I'm really lucky to be here because, closing in a bit.
The Vancouver Aquarium shuts its doors as pandemic losses pile up. And
a path in Coquitlam, a hotel lobby in Whistler. Bear encounters caught on camera.
This is CBC Vancouver News.
good evening. Thanks for joining us. After a big surge in new COVID-19 cases over the weekend, a firm message from BC's top doctor.
Provincial Health Officer Dr. Bonnie Henry says we all need to pay attention with so much uncertainty about the virus heading into the fall.
Along with a huge number of new cases, 4 more people have died over the weekend, bringing our province's total to 208. Active cases now stand at a record high with 1,107. Nearly 300 new cases were recorded over the weekend. Hospitalizations are also up to 28, with 10 of those patients in intensive care. There is 1 new outbreak in a long-term care home in the Fraser Health region, though 2 other outbreaks have been declared over. 12 long-term and acute care outbreaks remain.
And the still surging case counts have prompted a strong message, as we said, to reset before the fall.
Our Tanya Fletcher joins us live now with the latest update. So, Tanya, health officials are asking everyone to pause and take a step back.
And that's right. This is the most somber tone we've really heard from Dr. Bonnie Henry in quite some time, and she delivered a bit of an ominous message today. She headlined today's briefing by saying, "I need everyone to pay attention. Now is the time to prepare as summer winds down." So it's all in the context of bracing for a possible second wave to hit at the same time as cold and flu season this fall.
We need all of us to take a step back and refocus. We've been in that messy middle for the last few months, and we've been able to do a lot of things that we hadn't been able to do for quite a few months. And that's because we all worked together and got the rates quite low here in this province. And now we need to go back to that.
And so she talked about more people gearing up to go back to the office, returning to the workplace and to schools come September. But really, she emphasized dialing back the social gatherings and getting back to the basics on that front, especially as the cooler weather returns. You know, basically, she said, we had our fun and traveled over the summer, but now is the time to walk back those social interactions, especially indoor gatherings.
Yeah, very firm message for sure today. Now, speaking of back to school, health officials taking a bit of heat over that new TV ad about return to class.
Yeah, you might have seen it over the weekend. There's been some pretty vocal criticism over this ad by the BC government that started running just in the past few days. Take a look. It's a TV spot and it's from the Ministry of Education. You can see it features Dr. Bonnie Henry herself, and it shows her standing in a classroom of about 6 physically distanced students in one classroom. There's been an outcry, though, from many teachers especially, who say this is a misrepresentation of what school will actually look like in just 10 days. And here's the argument from the head of the BC Teachers Federation.
When, families or teachers take a look at those ads, they're going to know that it's not realistic, and it really, unfortunately, undermines government's credibility.
So Henry and Health Minister Adrian Dix were asked about that today. They claim this was never meant to be a commercial about what an actual classroom would look like come September. Instead, they say the video was meant to be showing just a general conversation she was having with students and their parents about going back to school.
Is a representation. It's not central casting. It's an effort, it's a conversation, and was a conversation between the provincial health officer and children. And in that sense, I think it's useful.
He says the intent was never to imply that there would only be 6 kids in a class. They said they only filmed it in a classroom setting because that's what those kids wanted. And all of them, by the way, did have masks with them at the time. Again, Mike.
All right, thanks for that update tonight, Tanya. Tanya Fletcher reporting for us live. Surrey is following Vancouver and giving families with younger kids another option when heading back to class next week, a hybrid model. Students in kindergarten to grade 9 will now also be allowed to take a combination of online learning and face-to-face instruction. Before, there were only 2 options available, full-time in class and full-time online homeschooling. Parents advocated for a more flexible option in a letter to the Ministry of Education last week, saying it would make families feel safer.
And even with the changes to the back-to-school plan, there are still concerns about COVID-19.
Our Zara Premji takes an inside look at what cleaning protocols will look like going forward.
Back to school, well, we know it's not going to look the same, but how classrooms are cleaned and disinfected, well, that's changing too. You may have seen this machine on planes, disinfecting the seats and touch surfaces after each flight. Now, Surrey will be one of the school districts using something similar in an effort to fog the classroom and do a deep clean.
The wand has an electrode in the end of it that actually vaporizes it and makes it attract 2 surfaces. It's actually greater than gravity, so it doesn't remain in the air for a long time.
We weren't disinfecting our sites previously. They were being cleaned with cleaning products, but now we're actually spraying to disinfect everything in the schools.
You'll still see a spray and wipe and all surfaces being scrubbed down before the disinfecting, as well as hand washing and sanitizing stations. And while custodians were only really around after hours, students will now see them during the day following through with the new cleaning measures.
All of the products that we're using for cleaning at our schools are based on the recommendations that are made by the BC Centre for Disease Control.
In Surrey, for example, they'll be using Process Cleaning Solutions products and the Clorox 360 electrostatic sprayer to disinfect. Other districts in the province say they're also using approved cleaning guidelines and products from the BC CDC website and Health Canada, explaining general cleaning and disinfecting of schools and workplaces should occur at least once in a 24-hour period. Then frequently touched surfaces will be cleaned twice in 24 hours at least. Now, this could include doorknobs, light switches, handrails, desks, and more. The school district says the plan is to continue to follow the product recommendations and guidance from health officials to make sure students and staff are protected, explaining as the virus changes, so could cleaning protocols. Zara Premji, CBC News, Surrey.
And one of the city's most popular attractions is closing its doors to the public.
The Vancouver Aquarium says it is losing money every day because of the COVID-19 pandemic.
As Yeung reports, hundreds of employees will be losing their jobs.
Labor Day could be the last chance to see these sea lions for a long time. The Vancouver Aquarium reopened in June after a 3-month closure. It's only been able to accommodate 20% of its usual visitors to maintain distancing.
But I think I'm really lucky to be here because, like, closing in a bit.
I'm used to seeing a lot of people here, and I can see why they have to do it, but I'm hoping that there's a way that they can solve the problem.
The aquarium received hundreds of thousands of dollars in donations since the pandemic started, but that only covered a few weeks' worth of operations. It says there aren't enough ticket sales to keep the place running.
We need to find a better way to run the aquarium, a way that is both pandemic safe, that helps us accelerate our conservation mission and attracts visitors and cover its own costs.
209 employees are being permanently laid off today, mostly in the operations department. Since the spring, more than 500 employees have lost their jobs at the aquarium. The Vancouver landmark is run by the not-for-profit organization Oceanwise. Its CEO's annual salary is $270,000.
Our financial crisis is far from over.
He says senior leadership took significant pay cuts to reduce costs at the start of the pandemic, but didn't specify how much.
There's not a dollar in this organization that hasn't been flipped more than once to see if there's a better way to use it. We've been looking at savings since we closed the aquarium.
Oceanwise says it costs $1 million a month to feed and care for the 70,000 animals at the aquarium. While guests won't be able to come and see them, the aquarium says the shutdown won't have any impact on animal care. Eva Yeung, CBC News, Vancouver.
Today is International Overdose Awareness Day.
Hundreds of people continue to die every month in BC from toxic drug overdoses. And to mark the day, a number of events were held around Vancouver.
CBC's Joel Ballard takes us to 2 of them.
A block party took over downtown Hastings this afternoon, filled with a barbecue, colorful clowns, and music. And while it was meant to be fun, there was also a purpose: to demand action by the government on the overdose crisis.
The pace is frustrating, angering, disgusting to say the least.
The overdose crisis is nothing new in British Columbia, but since the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, it's flared up. For the third month in a row, BC has recorded more than 170 overdose deaths. And now, people are fed up, and they want stronger, faster action.
COVID has, of course, increased the overdose numbers, and it's also shown everyone what can be done when people are afraid of their lives, and we're afraid of our lives.
The event also included outreach services, on-site drug testing, and a letter-writing campaign.
We're trying something different. We're trying to have fun. We're all really depressed. We're all really tired. And we have to keep living life, and we have to keep demanding things change.
Key among those demands were decriminalization and a low-barrier, safe supply. Meanwhile, across town, a quiet memorial was erected, a wall of shoes, each one representing a person who has died from an overdose.
There are many people who are addicted from all walks of life, and we need to look at that. They're dying at home, alone. There's students, there's doctors, there's teachers, business people, sports people, all kinds of people that have, for some reason, become addicted.
And while those two events looked vastly different, they were both born from the pain of loss. For Bailey, it was her 21-year-old daughter, Ola. She died of an overdose in 2015. And so Bailey keeps fighting.
The reason we need to look at safer supply is to keep people alive. That's what we're hoping to do, because if they, there's no hope for them once they die. They can't get into treatment. They'll never recover.
Similar demands that both women hope won't land on deaf ears. Joel Ballard, CBC News, Vancouver.
Well, BC's budget surplus is no more. Provincial spending in the first weeks of the pandemic has completely wiped out any gains from last year's budget. BC ended its fiscal year with a $321 million deficit. That's nearly $600 million lower than the projected surplus. Finance Minister Carol James says there are several reasons for the shortfall.
The pandemic led to lower tax revenues, a bigger loss at ICBC in the fourth quarter, and unexpected government spending and health authority costs in response to COVID-19.
And the numbers aren't pretty. The start of the pandemic in March caused the government to lose $397 million in personal income tax, $171 million in property taxes, and nearly $300 million from ICBC, all before the fiscal year ended on March 31st.
Marine-based tourism operators who've seen business all but dry up because of the pandemic are joining forces to clean up BC's Central Coast shoreline.
It emphasizes just how important this is, not just for the environment, but also for the soul and the spirit of people who have meaningful jobs on the coast. To know that they can care for this coast that we love, and that's the lifeblood of our businesses.
The province is investing $3.5 million toward the Clean Coast, Clean Waters initiative. Tour operators and coastal First Nations will be removing up to 100 tons of marine debris. The cleanup extends more than 1,000 kilometers of remote shoreline and small islands, including the Great Bear Rainforest.
The search for a 52-year-old hiker who went missing more than a week ago on Eagle Mountain near Coquitlam has been called off. Coquitlam RCMP and local search and rescue are suspending the search for Ali Naderi. The experienced hiker was reported missing August 23rd, and search teams have been scouring all the trails in the area for him. RCMP say given the time frame Naderi has been gone, his lack of supplies, and the large area where he went missing, it doesn't make sense to continue to put others at risk.
The weather update is brought to you by Fortis BC. Using more energy these days? We've got energy-saving tips, easy upgrades, how-to videos, and more.
And time to take a look at the weather now. Johanna Wagstaffe, you timed this forecast very nicely. As we are on air right now, it is gorgeous outside.
It really is, yes. It would be nice to be hanging out on these last summer days with those fresh starts out there, but alas, We do have a good weekend, though, so something to look forward to, and that's quite the tease. But let me get you through the next couple of days. Fresh starts out there, comparatively fresh, but you've probably noticed just a little bit of a breeze, a sweater needed in the morning. Let me show you how things look out there right now, because we're also noticing that coolness in the air once the sun starts to go down, which is creeping up about a minute and a half earlier each day. So temperatures right now around 17 at YVR. That's a little cooler than where we're usually at this time of the day. 19 over towards Nanaimo, 18 in through Hope. So a chillier start to our work week. Look at the satellite and radar. This system kind of sinking down across the province, bringing a few afternoon showers to the central interior. A couple of waves will track across BC over the next couple of days. I don't think there's a huge chance of showers for us. A slight risk at this point Wednesday morning, but let me take you through the next 24 hours. Already getting some increasing cloud as we head into the evening hours. A mainly cloudy overnight. Temperatures down around 13. So a little on the chillier side if you're out nice and early, sort of 6, 7, 8 a.m. up and at 'em. You might want to think about adding an extra layer. And yes, it will be mainly overcast to kick off your Tuesday. Clearing skies as we head into the afternoon, and I've got a nice 21-degree forecast. All right, quick look at that warming trend. Look at that. This is what we'll be following over the course of this week, getting up to the high 20s by the time we hit next weekend. We could be challenging provincial records, so stay tuned.
Oh, we will stay tuned and get ready for a last-minute tan, I suppose. Thank you, Joe. Well, a black bear sauntered into a resort in Whistler this weekend. No, not a setup for a joke. This unexpected visitor walked through a courtyard, then up 2 flights of stairs to the main lobby. Was it scouting out a good place to hibernate this winter, just looking for a fresh bowl of porridge? Well, we'll never know. But some employees chased away the unwanted guest, who was clearly not carrying a wallet.
And an overly curious black bear was also a problem in Coquitlam this weekend. Look at this. On Saturday, a bear cornered a runner along the popular Coquitlam Crunch Trail. After taking a poke at the petrified person, the runner, as you see there, managed to sprint away. Conservation officers are now trying to trap the bear for the safety of it and the public. Of course, if you encounter a black bear, the experts say to back away slowly, make yourself big, put your arms over your head, and try to talk to the animal. Well, the Vancouver Canucks are now 1 game from elimination in this year's playoffs, but there's still some fight left in this team.
We've had guys who've been in this situation before at different levels, and it's do or die tomorrow night. We just got to take it 1 game at a time.
The Canucks were leading heading into the 3rd period last night, but Vegas scored 3 goals to take a commanding 3-1 series lead. Game 5 tomorrow night at 6:45.
And our newscast on CBC television will be right after the hockey game that's playing right now. I believe it's Tampa Bay against somebody I'm
Boston.
not. That's right. 20 minutes or so, maybe less.
Yeah, unless they go to overtime or something. We'll be on for a full hour whenever that happens. Back online at 6 p.m. tomorrow night. Thanks for watching online tonight.
Good night.